Thank you all for joining me in the healing room. It's a joy to see everybody back again. How's everybody doing during these very transformational times? So many things to pull us out of our center, so many things to distract us. And so how do we maintain conscious connection? How do we maintain groundedness in our bodies, in our hearts, in our minds, to the earth? This meditation tonight, I decided to first drop into the earth because I feel a lot of energy waves in the world that can easily disrupt our presence. And so how do we stay present in the midst of so much activity? What are the tools that we use to stay grounded and centered in our self, in our truth, right? What does that even mean, in our truth? That word is such a tricky word. What is the truth? How do we know what the truth is? And only we can know that within our own being. Only we have access to that within ourselves, right? Everyone, each person has their own belief system. But is that belief system based in truth with a capital T and reality with a capital R, or is it based in illusion? Right? How do we know the distinction? How do we discern truth from illusion? And for me, this is a major part of the work that each one of us is here to do in the world. How to be so solid in ourself that we are certain of who we are and where we're operating from and where our mind is sitting, where it is hanging out. And this is why I spend so much time talking about the 7 contemplations, so that we can train our mind to stay present and not get caught up in the hullabaloo of all that's happening outside in the world, and to master the observer, and to master being present, and to master, I know nothing. I know nothing, because it's in that emptiness that the truth presents itself. And so how to stay neutral, yet not go to the place of indifference, right? How to stay neutral in the world as an observer, curious, intrigued by all that's happening, but not get caught up in all of the dramas that are outplaying in the world, because there's always going to be dramas and traumas and things that are unfolding, but how do we relate to it? That we're present in observing it, but not going towards apathy. This is a really important distinction, right? How to truly stay present and neutral, but not go to the place of disinterest, because it's so easy to go there when we get overwhelmed with the amount of content that the world is presenting to us. And also the amount of content within our own self, right? The amount of stuff that arises within our own self. How do we manage all this content as it arises in a day? Like today, I got an email from my accountant informing me of all this money I had to pay for my taxes. And immediately there was this reaction in my body and my mind just going to these places of annoyance and upset. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I got some work to do today. Because any sort of reaction like that informs me that the past is in my present. Because if not, I'd just be curious and interested. Like, oh, that's very interesting. That email is a very interesting email, and I guess I have taxes to pay. So when we're aligned in our center, then we're able to take information in and process it in the present moment. But when we're not, we're in this loop. We're in a past future loop, and then we start going round and round. Our mind starts to just have all of these thoughts and all of these feelings. And so at that point, the key is to not go on that merry-go-round. That's not the point. The point is, how do I slow myself down enough to process myself back into the present moment? Back into the present moment. Now, this is a job that's 24/7, right? Like, say I'm in the streets of New York City when I was living there, and I'm in the train station and I get triggered by something. I then have to slow myself down and be like, all right, take a few deep breaths in, notice what's going on in your body, because it's always in my body, right? The reactivity is always a bodily feeling. So I have to drop into my body and just take notice, take inventory. How am I feeling right now? What do I need right now to take care of myself? And then this is how we integrate the subconscious content, that which is running in the background of our lives, that is infiltrating our present moment, impacting all of our bodily functions, all of our thought processes, all of our capacity to give, to receive. Everything is impacted by these reactions. And that's why it is one of the first things to work with whenever something arises. And so the first tool is our breath, to just go back into our breath and bring ourselves present. This is why I always start with a meditation. And I call it a meditation, but anything can be a meditation. Like, you can be in the middle of the streets of a city and you can just take a few deep breaths in and you're meditating. You are bringing yourself back to the present moment. This is why this is one of the number one tools to work with when we go into a space of reactivity. And then working with the tool of the subconscious purge, right? So say I react on the train of New York City and my mind thinks, people are so, fill in the blank. People are so unconscious. That's a thought form. It's not present. And so I drop into the subconscious purge, which is just allowing myself to let every thought about people come to the surface so it can be released. People are selfish, people are unconscious, people don't care, people are always about themselves, whatever it is, just keep running the program until there's nothing left. And then you reprogram, right? From the place of the heart center, people are stressed. People aren't present because fill in the blank. You begin to reprogram from the place of compassion rather than the place of judgment, from the place of acceptance rather than projection onto people. And this takes time, this takes effort, because if we're continuously projecting our negative thoughts onto the world, then the world continuously gives back our beliefs, our limiting beliefs, because the universe always proves us right. You're right, Joe, people are unconscious. So I'm always going to encounter unconsciousness until I reprogram, and then I'll have a different experience in life. So you see how that works? It's so simple, yet it's so complex, because in this world of duality, there is a me and an outside world. But the reality is I'm creating the outside world by my inner perceptions. I'm creating the external experiences due to my internal perceptions. So I continuously have to use my observer, use the witness, the tool of the witness, to notice what I'm generating and creating that I really don't want to experience, and then generate a different experience, generate a different quality of life by changing my perception. And I'm going to have to relax my body rather than contract it when I encounter something I don't like or a person I don't want to be around. How do I surrender into the moment rather than resist it? How do I accept rather than judge? Hence the 7 contemplations. You keep dropping into each one of those, and you master each one of those, then you master the game of life. It's our game, right? We're the main piece on the game board, traversing this journey. So if that's the case, then I'm actually controlling the game board. Yes, there's rules in this game. There's definitely rules. But when I'm playing knowing the rules, then I have the power to understand how to win at this game, right? That everything is energy, that everything is interconnected, that there is polarity in this world, that there is a masculine, feminine, right? And how to embrace the polarities, how to embrace the paradoxes, rather than wanting it to be different. That's where the suffering comes in. I want things to be different than they are in my life. I want this world to be different. I want people to be different. And then when they're not different, then we suffer. We get caught up in the web of illusion that's being presented here, rather than absorbing the illusion, accepting the illusion as a part of myself. And it's my illusion, it's my creation. So if it's all mine, then I can redesign it as I desire. It's a higher concept that I am sharing with you, but it's accessible to all of us. But the key is to not fight anything, to not fight it, to accept and surrender into it. And then when we're all a part of it, when I'm a part of that which I resisted, then being a part of it, I now have command over it, because I'm not doing this me versus it. And it's the hardest to do with people who are closest to us. For example, like when we've divorced someone, the last thing we want to do in a bad divorce situation is embrace the person we've divorced. We want to keep that separation. We want to keep that split, because it just doesn't feel good inside. It doesn't feel good. But then, you know how much energy it takes to keep that split going, to keep that separation going? So much energy. Energy that we need to support the healing of our body every day, to support creating life the way we want to create it. Like, everything requires energy. And so if we're using energy to keep something at bay, how much energy is that? 20, 30, 40% of our vital force? Because it's all vital force. And so this is why we study our reactivities. We really watch when we contract, when the hand clenches, right? And we have these fists and we want to fight. right, wrong, I'm right, they're wrong, I'm good, they're bad, right? This oppositional behavior. And you can see how it's used in the world, in the media. Who's for this, who's for that, and then creating opposition so they fight each other. It's all a great distraction. Watch out for it. Lots of energy being just given away to the external world. I was looking at the all the reactions to what happened at the Oscars with Will Smith, and I was amazed at how much energy people are given to this thing. And this is how the media just sucks your life force out of you. Like, give us your attention, give us your energy. And then we're going to put it somewhere else. We'll give you something else to focus on, because this is going to eventually peter out, right? And then something else is going to be created. So how do you just watch that stuff and be like, oh, that's interesting, that's curious, but not give it any energy, not give it any attention? Hold the energy in yourself like the sun contains the rays of light. That's how much power we have. That's how much power we have. Like the sun, so creative, so much potential. The sun doesn't focus on anything beyond being the sun. It absorbs everything in its environment. So each one of us could do the same thing. Just absorb the environment. Take all the energy, use that to recycle within your consciousness. How amazing would that be? Talk about the fountain of youth. It's all right there. Just taking the energy in the world and recycling it within ourselves. Loving everything exactly as it is, especially that which you don't want to love. That is the greatest challenge, and you will get so much from that capacity to love unconditionally. That's the highest state, the highest vibration, unconditional love. Everything else entrains to that, rises to that level of consciousness. So many ways to master this game of life. If you know, first and foremost, that it's a game. Secondly, how to train the mind. Thirdly, the universal laws and spiritual principles that are governing all of existence. That's the second ebook that I wrote. It's for free on the website. And I highly recommend studying it, because how do you master this world if you don't know the rules of this world? If you don't know that we're all one, that it's all energy, and that energy is constantly transmuting, constantly transmuting. That this reality exists in a paradox where many truths can exist at the same time. So there's nothing to fight, there's nothing to argue with. So many things can be true at the same time, even though they seem completely opposite and oppositional. It's mind-blowing, totally mind-blowing. But when you can embrace the paradox, watch how much power you hold. Because the world is full of paradoxes. And in order to love unconditionally, one has to master embracing the paradox. And so it's a great healer, because it rectifies the differences in the past. It rectifies the differences in the past. That I'm creating everything. At the same time, things happened to me in the past. I creating everything and things happened to me in the past. Both are true. I may have been abused as a child, and I created that. The mind is like, no, that doesn't make any sense. It happened to me from the outside world. How am I responsible for that? Embrace the paradox. It's all part of a greater whole that's beyond understanding my third dimensional mind with the five senses, perceiving through the lens of five senses. But when you understand soul consciousness and that we are above and beyond this moment in time, that we are multidimensional beings, not just physiological five sensory beings, but multidimensional soul beings with many incarnations, with many experiences, where we held many positions, positive, negative, high, low, right? In this way, when the mind gets trained, it's able to understand, I am everything because I've held every position. I have every thought. I've had every experience. Therefore, there's nothing that's not a part of me that I've not experienced. Therefore, nothing to judge. All is a part of me. All is erupting from me. All is arising from me, through me, within me, around me. So again, these are concepts that are, higher concepts in the realm of soul consciousness. But like I say over and over again, to me, it's really time to learn these concepts and master these concepts so that we can begin to experience a different experience in this world where we're not operating from a place of fear. For example, of what's the future to come? The news says gas prices are rising, inflation is rising, things are becoming scarce because of X, Y, and Z, right? How do you be able to live in this world as a creator spirit, observing all of these thoughts, ideas, but not dropping into it, not becoming worried about it at all? Because no matter what happens in the world, you can have a different experience because it's your reality. So you can manifest things pretty easily. When you're in your central channel, when you are in a space of trust, acceptance, surrender, you live in a different paradigm. It's a different paradigm, trust me. But you have to move from the place of fear to trust, from despair to faith. Like it's all going to work out somehow. And it's not for me to judge it good, bad, right, wrong. So if I'm this reactive to things on the news, perhaps I take a break from the news. But again, that reactivity is simply information to drop into the inner work, the inner sphere of consciousness, and to begin to dissolve these limiting thoughts and beliefs.